Feeling alone, overwhelmed? Low-key listening is here to help. Whether you want to vent, share your thoughts, or just have someone truly listen to you, we have real people standing by, ready to listen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can download the app for free on Apple App Store or Google Play. Simply set up an account, find someone, and they will listen to what you have to say. You can actually even take voice memo notes and send them to the person. You can even text the person. Here's the best part. It is completely anonymous, not only for you, but the person listening. Because after all, don't we want somebody there willing to listen to us? Download the Low Key app today. Talk, be heard, and feel better. Low Key listening on your favorite app store.
They say opportunity knocks, but what if it's not opportunity? What if it's something or someone else? A familiar voice from the past, a chance you've been waiting for, a mistake you thought you left behind, or maybe something far bigger than you imagined. Some doors were open without hesitation, others were cautiously peeked through, and some we wish had never answered. This season on Other People's Shoes, host Neil Matthews is asking one question. Who's there? Will you answer? Will you hesitate? Step inside season 22 of Other People's Shoes, where every knock holds a story, and every door leads to a choice. Now here's your host, Neil Matthews.
Welcome into Other People's Shoes. As you know, I am your host, Neil Matthews. So excited that you are here today. Show of hands right now. I'll know it if you don't raise your hand. How many of you, when the alarm clock goes off, you clap your hands and say, "What a beautiful morning," and you jump up and you're ready to go? Anyone? Anyone? Okay. The other side of the coin is always, do you spend the first, we'll say 45 minutes, maybe even 2 hours, where you're like, do not, and you cannot, and you should not ever talk to me. I don't want to be talked to. I don't want to be looked at. I don't even want to be bumped into. How many of you are in that boat? Anyone? Again, show of hands. Okay. I bring all that about because our guest today, I've never been to this city. Makes me think about it quite often when I hear the king, not Elvis, that's King George. He sang this song, Amarillo by Morning. And I feel like this morning, or maybe this afternoon, or perhaps maybe even this evening, we could even say Amarillo by this evening, Amarillo by this afternoon. We get to be here and welcome her into our front door. My new friend, Tiffaney. Tiffaney, how are you today?
I am fabulous. It is an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, are you a morning gal where you clap your hands, you're ready to go, Folgers is in the cup? It is the best part of waking up. You got your MyPillow stored away, beds made, ready to go. Is that you, or are you one of those, again, don't talk to me for like the first 2 hours, maybe 3? Tell me more.
No, I'm a morning person. I am up. I am ready to go. You can talk to me. You can turn all the lights on. You can do whatever you want. Mornings are my jam.
So if you were married perhaps to someone that wasn't or isn't, never will be a morning person, how does that work in the household?
Oh, I don't know if that would work. I've been married 26 years and he's an early riser too. I don't know if that would work. It's so funny because whenever I get to my job, my boss does not like fluorescent lights. She likes it very dark, holding onto the walls, stumbling, trying to get my way to the office. She is one of those that is not a morning person. We have to compromise. Yeah, my husband's an early riser too.
My wife is not.
Oh.
We have spent most of our marriage now of 24 years not talking to each other. It's taken me a long time to learn said lesson. I wake up ready to go. I'm like, Let's go get the Gatorade. Let's get the coffee. Let's get the whatever. Let's go. And she is not. And we used to work in the same building together and we would carpool. And I was like, man, this is amazing. We're going to get to spend all this time in the car together, back and forth to work. I'd get in the car and I'd just start yammering on like a monkey in a tree. And she finally looked at me and she goes, "What part of you thinks that I want to talk right now?" I'm like, wow. I almost was an Amarillo by Morning kind of guy.
Exactly. You learn through the years.
Tiffaney, help us with this as we lead off and get going and rolling today. What style of shoe might we find you in that Amarillo area?
Oh, that's funny you should ask. Right now I have house shoes on until I put and don't laugh at me. Don't make fun of me.
I'm going to try not to. You can't say that and then tell me not to laugh. That's impossible.
I wear Skechers. See?
That's why.
You're laughing.
I'm not laughing. I'm cringing. I'm crying for you. That's embarrassing.
I have to explain. I had a hip surgery last year, and from that hip surgery, I got chronic nerve pain, kind of permanent nerve damage. So Skechers tennis shoes is the only thing that I can wear that doesn't hurt my feet. And I wear them a size too big, so nothing really touches my foot. So that's where I wear Skechers. I know they're old lady shoes. Shout out to Skechers. They're not old lady shoes.
I don't know if I would shout them out by any means. I keep thinking that's the first company that's coming. I just have a feeling they're going to be like, you know what, Neil, we're going to give you some Skechers to wear. And I'm going to politely tell them, listen, I'll talk about your shoes all day long. Will not grace them on my feet. My Tootsies will not wear them. My feet are too good for Skechers. Maybe that's what it is. Or I'm too good for Skechers.
I knew you would get a giggle out of that.
I did. There's a giggle and a lot of rocks being now put down. I feel like there's shoe judgment coming your way. So the judgment will now stop and now cease. You know, one day maybe, no, I won't ever try Skechers. No. What am I saying? No. I can't. Well, I'm wearing some Jordans right now, just so you know. They're low top Jordans. They're Carolina blue even Jordans. I know that shocks everyone in the room and those listening.
It does shock me.
Yeah, I know. It's a shocking moment when people hear, oh, what? You know, it's Carolina Jordans? I just got some Carolina Jordan golf shoes now, too. So I'm ready on the golf course as well. They're pretty. They're pretty. Let me tell you. Pretty shoes, but they're white. And here in Oregon, white and golf.
Oh, they're going to get dirty.
They are. I had to get over that.
Yeah.
I had to immediately get over like, okay, they're going to get dirty. Just OCD, calm down. Tiffaney, help us with this because we're in this series called Who's There? You resonated with that. You came to us and was like, listen, I got a who's there moment. And it's a conversation that I think is getting slowly amplified. I mean, back in the band days, we called that a crescendo, like it started out quiet and now it's getting louder and louder and louder, graciously and gradually getting louder. But I still think it's silent in a lot of arenas. So tell us right now, when you think about the who's there idea, somebody at your front door, who might that be and how does that relate to your story?
My who's there and knocking at my door is usually my sister. We have been through a lot together. Both of my parents took their own life 1 year and 5 days apart, pretty much changed the trajectory of our lives. And thank goodness we have been there for each other. Nothing has ever wavered with our relationship, and we have just gotten stronger. We're always there for each other. That's who's at my door. And everybody needs a crazy sister or a crazy brother or a crazy sibling to knock at your door.
Wow. So some would hear that and they would think, okay, so there's more to that story.
This happened 18 years ago, 18 and 19 years ago. So it's been a while ago, but it still changed the trajectory of my life. So I had young kids at the time. They were about 3 and 5 years old. When this happened, they needed a mother that was emotionally present. So I just shoved everything down and kept going like nothing had ever happened. Like my life didn't just implode. And for 18 years, I survived in survival mode, raised my kids, have a great marriage, but there were some struggles. It affects every single aspect of your life. Here I am 18 years later, and I had this hip surgery and everything blew up. Every emotional thing that I shoved down came out physically in my body. Your body keeps the score.
So where were you when you found out about your parents passing, the first one and then the second one?
My son was actually in the hospital. He had got bit by a scorpion and ended up getting MRSA, staph infection. And so he went into emergency surgery. So we were in the hospital and we lived in the same town. My mom and dad both lived in the same town here in Amarillo. They hadn't been married in years. They divorced when I was 2. So they were both remarried. That's when I found out that morning that after my son's surgery, I was still in the hospital. My stepdad called me and told me.
Your mom takes her life first, and then a year or so later, your dad takes his life separately.
A year and 5 days later. My dad was watching my son that day. The babysitter had called in sick, and so he done a lot of fun things and picked him up when I got off work, and we had a baseball game to go to for a friend of my son's. I got a phone call from a friend of mine that lived a couple of blocks over from my dad and said, there's cop cars all at your dad's house. So my sister and I jumped in the car and got over there, and we didn't know what happened at first until we could talk to the police. We knew something was bad wrong. He took his life by self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Wow. I hear people say quite often in these moments is there were no signs. There was no way we could tell that it was going to happen. I've talked to moms. I've talked to dads. I haven't talked to too many kids, by the way. In this moment, I think of you as a kid.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. It's just interesting to me trying to understand the logistics of it all. Again, they're both adults. They're both not married to each other, and separately in a span of less than 2 years, one than the other. Maybe there was a disagreement. You're talking about two different remarried, reestablished new families. I don't understand it. Have you struggled with that as well, or am I alone on the struggle bus?
Oh, I've struggled with it for 19 years. Absolutely struggled with it. Our brains are not designed to wrap our heads around why somebody takes their own life. Sometimes it's the perfect storm. Could be desperation, addiction, antidepressants, the very thing that we think is going to help us get out of this depression. A lot of people don't like when I say this. Sometimes antidepressants for those first few weeks have the complete opposite effect. And it kind of rewires your brain and sinks you down in that hole that you feel like you can't get out of. We are not designed to understand why somebody takes their own life. Sometimes it's the perfect storm.
Okay. Can you be Nancy Drew?
I'll try.
And again, you're only speculating. Why in your mind do you think it happened?
I know my mother, it was pills. She had had hip surgeries, back surgeries. That was hydrocodone was really new out on the market. Hydrocodone, oxy, methadone patches. They would just hand them out. They weren't regulated like they are nowadays. Oh, that doesn't work. Then take this and then take a combination of this. Almost 100% positive hers was pills. And it just rewired her brain. It led her to think she didn't need to be here anymore, that she was a burden. 100%. My dad was an absolute shock. Absolutely shocking. Saw him. I picked up my son, went to a baseball game, and within an hour, he's gone. That was absolutely shocking. And you talk about no signs. There were no signs. None. It's hard to wrap your head around.
It's hard to play the what if and the speculative. Nothing is accomplished in those moments.
No, because you ask yourself what if and why for the rest of your life, and you will drive yourself crazy.
For sure.
And at some point, you grieve. Absolutely. Got to move on. Stay stuck. That's such a toxic place to sit. Such a toxic place to sit. Trust me. I did it for 18 years. A lot of people self-medicate with alcohol, drugs, 75% of survivors. It's hard to wrap your head around.
Why do you think it affected you and your sister so much the way that it did? 18 years ago, I'm, again, not judging by any means. You're an adult. You have kids. You're married. You've done all the daughterly things. You've gotten married. Your dad probably walked you down the aisle. Your mom was probably there. Maybe it was awkward at the wedding. Maybe it was awkward at the reception.
How did you know?
I don't know, because I have divorced parents too.
Yeah.
And my daughter's 18 now, and there have been a lot of birthday parties and a lot of Christmases where it's like, okay, we got to go to dad's. We call him Gunny.
Yeah.
We got to go to Gunny's over here. We got to go to mom's over here. You know, it's awkward any time my parents get together. Love you dearly, mom and daddy. It's awkward. It's awkward for us kids because we're like, okay, I don't want to side with mom, but I don't want to side with dad. And you try to be Switzerland or Norway or one of the countries that don't get involved in anything. You can't win. You were an established adult. Maybe you didn't feel like an adult, but you were an adult. So why did it affect you the way it did, do you think?
I think it finally dawned on my sister and I, and of course my brother. My brother's since passed away. We were like the only three left of the family we were born into. And that just hits different. It just changes everything. Still got my stepdad in my life. He's a wonderful man. We don't really speak to my stepmom that was married to my dad. That was a whole crazy story. There's just something in you. The family you were born into is kind of gone and then slowly dwindles down.
Well, from that element, it does sound challenging. The family history is starting to slowly deteriorate and evaporate. Let's face it, we've all gone to the doctor's office a time or two and they give you the stack of forms and they're like, okay, fill out your medical history, and you start filling out your stuff. And then it comes to the page where you talk about mom and dad. And
that's fun.
It is. And generally I get to that section and I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, hey, do you know if dad...
Do we have diabetes? Do we have high blood pressure?
I don't know. I don't know those things. And to me, those that don't have parents don't have that ability to do that.
Right.
You don't have the ability to go to the historians of your family and say, hey, remember that one time? Or tell me about when you were a little kid. And it sounds like, maybe I'm projecting, so of course, correct me if I'm wrong here. It sounds like you and your dad had a pretty good relationship. I mean, why else would you call him in a sort of a 911 situation like, the babysitter bailed, we need you.
Yeah.
And for him to come in and play grandpa or be grandpa and have this pretty amazing day with your son.
A great day.
And that's something he'll treasure treasure forever.
Yeah. We never talked to the kids about it. Put a lot of this in my book because they were just so young. We never mentioned the word suicide. We thought if we did, then maybe they would think that that would give them permission to do the same. So my husband and I just never talked about it. But this was back when you didn't have podcasts to listen to. You didn't have books. You didn't have people that you could turn to as mentors that had been there, done that. What do we do? How do we talk about it? So we just didn't. We just stayed silent. And that was probably the wrong thing to do. I mean, thank goodness my kids have turned out wonderful and turned into wonderful human beings. But there's a point in time where you're like, gosh, did I do this right? That's why I'm so thankful there's podcasts. I'm part of what's called the Lost Team now, the volunteer program. So we are on call. And once we get a call from a police officer that a suicide has occurred, we show up within 15 minutes of a call. And it's usually a 2-man show. It's a survivor like me and a mental health professional. And we show up. I love your podcast called Other People's Shoes, because that's basically what we do, is put ourselves in other people's shoes. And we show up in the worst moment of someone's life. And we're just there to be present, to maybe provide a little bit of insight, since we have been there, done that on the worst day of someone's life. So we provide information on how to write an obituary. If there's scene restoration, we contract a couple of companies here in Amarillo and we'll provide scene restoration. That way they don't have to lift a finger to do anything, and we can clean up if necessary. If they need to get a hotel room for the night or the day, we do it all. We provide support, therapy afterwards if they need it. Usually it's about 4 years before somebody seeks therapy after a suicide loss, and we're trying to get that down to about 4 months. There's such shame and guilt and what ifs involved that you just don't seek therapy. You self-medicate. That's what people do. They don't know what to do. And there's such shame and stigma attached around suicide. You know, when someone has a heart attack, we don't go to the funeral and say, well, that's what they get for smoking for 30 years or eating fast food for the last 20 years. Laugh and cherish the memories and comfort each other. With suicide, it's almost like play the blame game. Why would they do that? Why would they do that to their family? Why didn't they ask for help? Mental pain is not a moral failure. Just like a heart attack can stop a heartbeat, so can hopelessness. And they both deserve our grace.
What do you miss most about your dad and then mom?
You know, I was so angry at my mom for so many years. What I miss most about dad is he was just a big, burly, just fun guy. I mean, just hysterical, and just a big old guy, just a big old teddy bear. I just miss talking to him and being a grandpa and all of that. And my mom, I just miss the mom things. Someone to call up and be like, hey, you know, this happened today. What's your opinion? What should I do? Just the advice. I just was so angry for so many years that they never got to see my kids grow up, turn into wonderful human beings. I think that's the biggest part of it.
So last year, I did a 4-day fast. And in that process, I really was at a crossroad. Right, left, stay where you are. I was seeking direction. My fast involved water, no social media, no eBay. Tried to stay off my phone as much as possible, which those that know me were like, that's a fast in itself, Neil.
It is.
No phone. It was tough. In that process, I got quiet and stilled enough and really asked God, even because I'm a God guy.
Oh, yeah.
And I asked God, I said, what do you want me to do in this area of my life? Like, I don't know what to do. And really the decision was stemming around staying in the current church that we were attending or go to a different place. That was the whole premise of the fast. In that process, your mind slows down and the distractions lessen, and you hear things, at least in my mind, I hear things, or nudging. And one of the things that I was really nudged on and maybe even shoved on was a season that we're going to talk about next on my podcast, and it's called The List. I didn't realize, or maybe even wanted to acknowledge, that I had been for years keeping a mental list of people that have hurt me, wronged me, disappointed me, not shown up for me, not been there for me, let me down. You're an accountant. You told me that pre-show. You know the premise and the idea of when there's a point where you have to write something off.
Yeah.
Can you explain that from an accounting standpoint briefly without being too much of a nerd? And I say nerd with respect, not as a derogatory.
I'm a numbers nerd. I am. I'm a numbers nerd. Now, this wasn't my ideal profession. I kind of just fell into it. So, but going back to the list, that resonates with me. That deeply resonates with me, because with the suicide loss, I always say you lose someone to suicide, your friends become strangers and strangers become friends. Community is so important, and you have to get around people that have been there, that have done that have been through the same kind of loss as you have. to even understand, because it's so hard for people to understand and they don't know. So they just don't do anything. And then they kind of just eventually fade out of your life. And you kind of just let them go and fade. Man, I can't wait to hear the people that you have on for that and the mental list that you keep of everybody that's wronged you. I love the fast that you did. I think that's incredible. I think social media fasting is one of the things that I did after my surgery. Was I had to sit with all of that pain and everything. And that's a lonely place to be. It's a very lonely place to be, is just sitting with yourself and embracing, okay, my life is not going to be the same. It's going to be a little bit different. We got to figure this out. It's a lonely place to be.
That sparked all that to say, it sounds like if I was going to ask you again, the idea of who's on your list, the numbers aspect, the idea of writing something off, that process of that, help me with that.
Yeah, writing something off. You can depreciate things and assets on your tax return, and you can do all your business expenses and write those off, and towards your income, dwindles down your income so you don't have to pay as many taxes.
I used to work for a company here in town called Lithium Motors. Maybe you've heard of them. I think they're maybe in Midland, Texas area.
Oh, the armpit of the world.
Yeah. I thought that was Bakersfield. Maybe it's in Texas.
I think it's Midland, Texas.
It's probably also Bakersfield. In that process, I worked for a car dealership, and they would send me every month generally at the beginning of every month, a thing called bad debt, and they would write things off. We can't collect this money. We're basically writing it off. We're done with the money. It goes to this account. And then lo and behold, Neil would get the account and try to recover the money that they wrote off, that they're like, we're just done with that money. We're writing it off. In that process of why I talk about that is the idea that in my mind, again, going back to my list, a couple of people say, so it's a hit list. I'm like, it's not a hit list. That's not what this is. There are people that you just are done with.
Yeah.
You're done with them. And again, maybe I'm projecting here. Your mom might have been on that list.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I was so angry that I wrote her off like you do as an accountant. Just angry that she did what she did. But I don't even think that she was mentally well when she did this. I think there's the less that you think about it and the less that it comes up in your mind, then you can move on with things. And that's so wrong. Grieve them. Then you have to move on with life, because I had kids to raise. I had work. It's such a crazy road.
Were there things in yours and your mom's relationship that would have caused her to be on that list prior to her passing?
You know, she had been on so many pills, and the combination of all of that I think even before she passed, I was really frustrated with the way things were going. She had not even been herself. It's crazy how those pills can change you into somebody that's not your mother. They look the same, but they're not the same. Ended up, she was on methadone patches at the end, and those are basically a synthetic form of heroin for pain. So you talk about just changing somebody right before your eyes.
So think about that moment separately, your mom and then your dad. If there had been somebody like you coming to your mom and dad's residence with you, like you're doing now, this kind of first responders kind of trauma team that you're talking about, you going out with a professional counselor when you show up to these. You said it, I didn't, but it's accurate. On their worst day, you're there, you're trying to be empathetic, you're trying to be a friend, you're trying to be comforter to the comfortless, because they need some comfort. They need a nice warm blanket to kind of maybe be around them, a friend to hold, a hand to hold, a hug, perhaps, maybe even if some need to be hugged. It sounds like you didn't have that. You nor your sister had that for either one of your parents passing. What do you think that would have done for you had you had somebody like yourself that you're now providing for others?
Oh, I think it would have helped tremendously. I think I probably would have got therapy way sooner than I did, just because you didn't know that there was therapy. I didn't know that there was support groups. I didn't know anything. We didn't know how to write an obituary. I just think back now on the calls that I go on, I see myself in these young people's eyes that have lost a parent or lost a child, just lost a loved one. It's just so shocking. I've held babies for mamas and fed them. I have let the dogs out. I have made phone calls to let other loved ones know when the person just couldn't make a call. It just tugs at my heartstrings every time I go. Definitely hard work and mentally exhausting work, but it's so rewarding. But I also have to protect my peace and know, because it kind of puts me back right in the same spot of how I felt losing my mom and dad, and my body feels it. Subconsciously, my body feels it. even though consciously I am not like, oh gosh, puts me back in that spot. Subconsciously, my body feels every single bit of that when I get off of a call.
Some would ask, then why do it?
Because nobody else will. And I know how important it is to just sit with somebody. And I think that's a lot of times people can't do that. It's hard to sit with somebody in that raw grief. Nobody wants to do that. I mean, it's raw. It is within the first few minutes of them finding out that their loved one is taking their own life. And it is raw grief. And I think the most important thing you can do is just sit with somebody in it. We don't provide advice. We don't provide anything. We just sit with them. Like, what can I do for you? Tell me what I can do in this moment. And like I said, it might be something like letting the dogs out because they're barking, feeding the baby, letting all the nosy neighbors know. Every neighbor in town will come out and letting the neighbors know. Such important work. I can't not do it. But I've learned my limits on how many I can do a year. And I've learned my limits. I can probably only go to about 3 a year now.
Intrigued by that on so many levels. On one level, it's such a needed thing. On the other emotional level, like you said, it takes its toll. It keeps score. Your body keeps score. Whether we know it or not, it keeps score, like you were saying also. You said you didn't have somebody that was like you, that could have been in that role, that support, that character, to meet you at your parents' front door, either one, to sit with you, to be with you in a joking way. A lot of times in cartoons or maybe even TV shows, there's this death type Grim Reaper character at the front door, knocking, death at the door. I don't think any of us want to think about our death. I don't think any of us really want to think about life without us not being here.
No.
We have not ever shied away from suicide. From the inception of my podcast, I've always had, it seems like maybe every season or every other season, we've had this type of conversation with folks. Again, most of the time, it's maybe a mom or a dad talking about their child. It's rare that a younger person who talks about their parents passing. That is a rare category, I feel like, a very rare niche. Death really was at the front door for your family. What do you hope people understand about suicide that, again, makes it such a hard thing to understand?
I don't know if there ever is any understanding of it. I think it's really hard for us to wrap our brains around it. God didn't design us to take our own life. He designed us with self-preservation to fight for our own lives. I just want people to understand too, I have such an issue with the term mental illness. I don't think it's an illness. Grief is not a mental illness. Why do we treat it like it is? Why do we treat it with a pill? Something that we need to stop doing. Grieving is absolutely, completely normal. And like I said, mental pain is not a moral failure. We all go through seasons of depression. I think that some people aren't willing to understand it. Everybody just kind of shoves it under the rug. It's not something that people want to, like I was saying, sit in with you while you grieve it. And if I would have had somebody back then, it's just incredible what we do. I mean, we help people, call the funeral home. I mean, like, it's just those little things that you don't even think of. You don't even know what funeral homes are in your own town because you don't think of calling them until somebody passes. If I would have had somebody like that, I think about that often too. And I talk about this in my book. This is the path that God had me go down. This is the path that He had me go through all of this trauma to get to where I am today. So I can sit with people in their raw grief and go through that with somebody. There's not a lot of people that can. And I think that's why survivors are such an integral part of helping new survivors.
You don't really know that you're able to get through something sometimes unless you go through it yourself.
Oh, absolutely. You don't know until you know.
You know what it's like to be a mom. You are one. You gave birth to children. They were in your womb. You saw them come out. I mean, you saw the whole process, not to get weird. You saw that. You experienced that. I will never.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Girls have babies, boys don't. I will never have a baby grow inside of me. And if I do, it's probably an alien and we need to call National Enquirer if that's still a thing. I don't even know. You've experienced that because you've walked through that. There are so many things in life that we can't understand. We've never walked through it. And I've heard people say, well, just because you've never experienced it doesn't mean you can't talk about it or understand it. I don't think that's true.
I agree.
If there was a lesson maybe to be learned that you didn't know before, that now you know, what would be the number one, maybe even 3, 4 lessons? I don't know how many there are. Some lessons you've learned along the way during this process of not only grieving your parents, but now helping others walk through that process that you've learned about yourself that maybe could help somebody else to say, okay, this is how I was able to do it. This might not work for you, but it worked for me. This is what I had to do to finally say, okay, I can get past this darkness.
It took me years, and that's okay. It doesn't matter how long you take to grieve. It took me years. I eventually came up with what it's called the Rise Up method, and it's kind of like my acronyms. Simple. It's so simple. Can't be throwing huge things out to people that cannot even get through minute to minute. You have to reach out before you shut down. I don't care if that's a friend, a family member, a safe person in your support group. You have to reach out. Isolation is deadly. Suicide loss survivors are 7 times more likely to take their own life. That's statistic.
Why do you think that statistic is out there?
It's just known fact because it's such a hard thing to get over, to grieve and to understand. And you get just stuck down in this rabbit hole. You think you can't get out of it. And you think, well, gosh, because they did that. Maybe, where's my life going now? What am I doing? And there's just not enough resources out there. I mean, there are now, thank goodness. And we talk about it more. There weren't for years. I mean, now we have a whole month for suicide loss, the whole month. We have a whole month for mental health. So the I stands for ink it out, and I mean journal. And I really thought that used to be the dumbest thing ever. I thought it was for little girls with glitter pens. And I'm not kidding. You have to put your thoughts on paper. It has to have somewhere to go other than your body, or it will stay shoved down. So you have to journal, ink it out. And so my S is sit with it. And that's what you and I had discussed earlier. You have to sit with it. And that's a really lonely place to be. And that's where your thoughts are like, okay, what is happening? Who am I without all this noise? Who am I without shoving everything down? Who am I without the chaos? The E is embrace who you're becoming, because you're not going to be the same person. You're just not. Grief and the suicide loss has changed you, and that's okay. The U is unlearn all the lies that you're broken. And I always say, what if we told ourselves we were brave instead of broken? Why do we always think that we're broken? So you have to unlearn a lot of the lies that society has told you, that you've told yourself. P is protect your peace. And this is so, 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 so important. Not everybody deserves access to your healing. And it is so important to protect your peace.
So your word one more time, just so we can hear it.
Rise up.
So with that idea of rising up, we can pick ourselves up again.
Absolutely.
These are the things that you did, that you found that helped you the most, being able to rise up again,
Yes.
to not stay on the ground.
Yes.
Yes, sometimes we have to be on the ground and cry a little and grieve a little, but then we can rise up and we can start breathing again.
When you're at the bottom of the barrel, the only way to go is up. These are simple, simple, simple things that you can do. And it's going to take a lot of, I think in the messy middle of all of this in the last 18 years, I convinced myself that I was totally healed because I'd shoved everything down and just, I don't want to think about that. I convinced myself I was totally healed, but I never did any work. I never did the work to heal. So you have to get intentional. And these are very small steps that you can do to get intentional. And it might be changing your whole lifestyle. I had to change my whole entire life, from the friends that I had, things that I would partake in as far as happy hours after work, drinking, and some of those things. I mean, that changed my whole life. I had to sit with all of this and completely change my whole entire life. That's what healing is. Sharing my story is what healing is. And that's why I love your podcast. You let people share your stories. That's where your healing is going to start. You have to talk about it. For so long, I was so embarrassed and I stayed silent, and sharing your story is where your healing is going to start.
What would you go back and tell the younger you, 4 words that younger you needed to hear? You can be in that moment when you found out about your mom, be that grief person that you are now currently, with all the skills and all the knowledge and everything you have. What are maybe 4 words that you needed to hear at your mother's passing? And then that year later, maybe 4 different words that you needed to hear at your dad's passing.
I don't know if they would be different words at either one of them, but probably the words that I would say is you're brave. You are brave. You are not broken. You are brave. You could not have fixed this, and you are brave.
Why those words?
I just think that we don't tell ourselves enough that when we go through something traumatic. And I think that, maybe that we're just sitting in the wrong word of broken. Why is everything broken? And you start thinking that you're broken, the whys and the what ifs. And, it's not like we have some kind of crystal ball. The family members have any kind of crystal ball that says, okay, this is why they did this and this is what they're going to do. We don't have that crystal ball of what's going to happen. Why can't we be brave? Why can't we tell ourselves we're brave? Why can't we tell our kids you're brave? You're not broken. Why is everything broken?
Would that have helped you, do you think, if you would have heard you were brave?
I do. I really do. It's just so shocking. I mean, it just takes me back to those days. I mean, just the shock and the rawness of it.
I hate suicide.
I do too.
I absolutely do. When I started the show 7 years ago, I really had the mindset, the idea, perspective, opinion, whatever keyword you want to say in there, that suicide is selfish. I've said multiple times, I think suicide is the most selfish act that you can ever do even. I don't know if I believe that anymore. I'm still on the struggle bus. Maybe you're in the seat next to me. In your mind, is suicide selfish?
No, someone is not mentally well when they make this choice. I don't think that they're in a spot, like I said all the time, it's the perfect storm. It could be serotonin levels, dopamine levels, hormone levels, everything is just the perfect storm in the brain. It's a misfire in the brain. There's lots of reasons that it could happen. So no, I don't think it's selfish. Never have. For you as an outsider not ever going through this, yeah, you would think that. I mean, that's kind of like, I've had a hip surgery and you've never had a hip surgery, so you don't know what the recovery's like, how the next few weeks or your whole life is going to go after that. I mean, if we're not sitting in that place from experience, then we just don't know. And I hate that there's such shame and stigma attached around it. And I think that's what people are trying to break and talk about. It sickens me that suicide is so prevalent now. It didn't used to be this prevalent 18 years ago at all. We didn't talk about all this. This didn't happen all the time. Why is it happening all the time now? It's baffling.
I think that's the why I want to get after.
It's baffling. It truly is.
Yeah, I would agree.
Especially children.
The one that hurts the most to me is when teens and young people.
Me too.
Is they have their whole life ahead of them and for whatever reason, fallen into this darkness that they can't get out of.
And that's why I say it's the perfect storm. I mean, it's hormones, it's dopamine, serotonin, some level, something misfires. I tell my kids all the time, everything is figure outable. Everything is figure outable. We can always figure something out. Don't ever get so down despair that we can't figure something out.
Tiffaney, you've talked about a couple of times. We've sort of hinted around about it, the mulberry bush. We've run around it a few times. You wrote a book. Why write the book? And the second question is, I know in that book writing process, sometimes the editors or the powers that be that are helping create the book, sometimes will say, nope, we got to cut this part out. There's some cutting process. There's some narrowing down process that happens, editing process. Was there a part in there that you were like, no, this has to be in there. You can't cut it. And maybe what part was that?
There actually wasn't. Got a fantastic publishing company, and they only really do memoirs. Nothing is off limits. I think the part where I felt the most vulnerable and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to edit this out. Really nervous about putting that out there is the way I self-medicated for 18 years. I decided to drink alcohol to numb the pain. Not every day. Boy, when I did, I always say if chaos needed a captain, I was it. You don't know what to do, so you do self-medicate. So I always think, oh, that's so vulnerable. And like I said, it wasn't anything like every day and never came home or didn't raise my kids. Sometimes grief isn't laying in bed and crying, it's dancing on the tables. Everybody has a different way of grieving. So no, they didn't want to edit anything out. So I was thankful on that because they were very good at publishing memoirs. So my book is called The Rise Back, and it is about my rise back from suicide loss. It's reclaiming life after suicide loss, pain, and silence. Has changed my life writing this book. I needed a dragon to slay, and that was my dragon. And talking about it and sharing my story, hopes of if I can be a lifeline to anyone else.
Where can folks go to get a copy of the book?
It will be on Amazon, so I'm super excited about that. You can also find me on Instagram. It's at Tiffaney, Tiffaney. It's kind of weird. Childers, Childers.
So here's my question. Is there an ecosystem? Is there a place where all things Tiffaney kind of come together where people can know maybe more about your story if they themselves have have experienced suicide, and maybe they need the friend. They need the virtual friend. They need the person that's like, listen, I want to know how I can walk through this and how I can maybe rise up from it.
Yes. So you can find me on my website, which is www.risesavage.com. I will be starting, I don't know if it's going to be virtual or kind of a support group for women that are really more than a year out. Starting one in person here in Amarillo. I really want to start one virtually. So we're not in that raw grief, but it's more than a year out from a loss. And women, and I don't know, maybe men too. I don't know why I'm just saying it's women. Follow me on my Instagram and my website, and I absolutely read everything and tell me your story. I will always listen.
You don't have like a wall to get over or an assistant to try to break through to get to you. You're kind of easily gotten to. All right.
Now, soon I will have an assistant and a wall to get over. But right now it's just little old me.
Just little old you.
All right.
Well, Tiffany, I feel like we need some silliness, some fun. We've had some heaviness, so we're going to play a game at the end of the show. We call it Heel Hustle. I know it might sound like a Tar Heel name. I promise it's just convenient because, shoes have heels too.
True.
Shoes have heels too.
My Skechers don't.
They probably do. You just don't even know. All right. Zach is going to tell us more about Heel Hustle. Zach, take it away.
It's now that time in the show to play the fastest growing game in the podcast world. We call it Heel Hustle. Today, our guest will try to answer all 6 of these questions in 60 seconds or less to win a prize from our prize closet. Audience, feel free to play at home. Let's put 60 seconds on the clock. Ready, set, hustle!
The game begins in 3, 2, 1.
Who was your childhood celebrity crush?
Oh my goodness. Childhood? See, I'm going to be really
celebrity
slow with
crush.
this. Ricky Schroeder? Silver Spoons?
Wow.
Stop.
Dating yourself. What's your secret talent?
Hey, I used to be in the fan club. My secret talent?
Yep.
Oh gosh. Neil, I don't know. Tax returns?
All right. One person you would trade places with for a year.
Drew Barrymore.
Oh, that was an easy one. Weirdest job you've ever had?
Parole officer.
Okay. What is the biggest risk you've ever taken? Oh, no!
I didn't make it. I don't win a prize.
You didn't win a prize. All right. What is the biggest risk you've ever taken? And don't say coming on this show. That's not an answer.
No, writing this book.
All right.
For sure.
I had a feeling. All right.
Yeah.
My favorite question and my least favorite question. Who needs a hug today from you and why?
Probably my daughter. She needs a hug from me. We don't live close to each other anymore, and she just started at her new job, so I bet she needs a hug from me.
You could like FaceTime her and hug yourself as she hugs herself.
Virtual hug.
Virtual hug.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Tiffany, thanks so much for coming on today. We really appreciate all that you gave and all that you shared. We really do value this conversation. I hope in our own way, we've now amplified the voice a little bit louder to remind people that they truly need to rise up. So thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
All right, guys and gals, kids and campers alike, that is it. That is all. That is, in fact, our show today. Listen, this idea of rising up, by the way, it invokes a song for me, and I'm sort of embarrassing myself right now. There's a rapper. I know. What a way to close, right? There's a rapper. I'm not recommending you go and Google him. He did have a song that I really like. It's super catchy. It's Petey Pablo, by the way. Petey Pablo, for those at home. He says, North Carolina, rise up, take your shirt off, spin it around your head like a helicopter. He's a wordsmith. What can I say? I like the song. It's super catchy. North Carolina, come on and rise up, take your shirt off, spin it around your head like a helicopter. He does it way better. My point is what are you going to do today to rise up? I'm not recommending you take your shirt off and spin it around your head like a helicopter. Okay, maybe, if that's you. Okay, fine. It's me. I'm going to do that. It's this idea of getting out of your comfort zone, right? Taking taking off our shirt for some of us is like, no, never. Not happening. Especially ladies. Like, I'm not doing that. Okay, don't do that. Do the rise up part. Rise up from the ashes. Rise up from the pit of despair. I heard a guest say a long time ago, Hannah, she says, I can do hard things. That still haunts me. Can you do hard things? Can you do the hard things in life? Is it fixable? That's what Tiffaney said. Is this fixable? Are you fixable? The answer to all those questions and much more is always yes, by the way. Stay tuned till next week. We're gonna keep going forward. We're gonna find out who's at our front door next week. And don't forget this when we go. Remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. I want to thank you so much for listening. And again, stay tuned till next week when we walk in other people's shoes.